All right, let me turn this music down and explain to you the method behind our madness. Good morning, Epsy. Welcome to the stream. Let me explain to you what we are doing here. There we go. Hey, all right. I don't think I meant to turn all the music off. There we go. Let's get a little bit of music going here. So yeah, here we are. It is I and it is Cattywhompus. Hey, Catty, do you mind saying something on Discord at this point?
Good morning. Hello.
There we go. Um, Epsy, if you are there and you are listening and Caddy's voice is somehow too loud or too soft, please let me know. That would be appreciated. So what are we doing here this morning, Caddy? I will explain to the good people out there who may be watching live or may be watching on VOD, video on demand. Um, is what we are doing is we're taking a look at your world versus world support Tempest. You and I every once in a while go through these things where we talk about builds that you are being given by your guild, and we at least go through how to maybe play it a little bit, but we also take a look at some of the traits and everything, particularly when it is a class or a build that I have a fair bit of experience on. Which is specifically today support Tempest for World versus World. So the plan was here, Caddy and I were going to wake up this morning and we were going to take a look at what was going on with the build, see what I suggested with it, see a bunch of different things about it. But I think more to the point, one of the things I've struggled with when it comes to these streams is actually providing, some good structured, relevant information. So I thought what I'd do here this morning was kind of stream this little session between the two of us, and we'd see how it goes. So, Caddy, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Well, I'm feeling much better. Yesterday I was a little under the weather until I started feeling great at about 7 p.m. and realized I hadn't eaten a thing all day and couldn't eat until quarter after 11 last night. So uh, let's just say I got home last night and boy, did I eat a lot of food. It was pretty crazy. But that is about it for me. So let us get started without further ado here and take a little bit of a look at what we're doing here. So the first thing that I am going to ask you to do, Caddy, if you'd be so kind, is why don't you pop the build that they have provided you? For those of you guys who don't play a lot of World versus World, when you join a specific World versus World guild, you'll probably run into situations where your guild will actually ask you to run a certain build, or they will ask you to do certain things, etc., which is obviously, good for those of us who are learning, but once we get to a certain spot, we want to take a bit of a critical eye to these things. So we are going to take a look at Caddy's support build that she's been given. To be clear, Caddy, are we running Minstrel's gear with Trooper runes?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So let's give everybody a good idea of why we would run Trooper runes in World versus World, which is kind of a strange rune there. A lot of survivability, obviously, but what it's really doing is if we take a look at the six, remove a condition from each affected ally after using a shout skill. This is pretty big value. It is big enough value that you run these runes over a lot of other alternatives. One that you might want to run here that I've run in the past has been monk runes, but I'll save the monk runes for PvE. While you do not need the toughness or the vitality off these runes, which is primarily what they provide, because you're running the minstrel's gear, really the only win you're getting off these is on the six with the removing of conditions. That said, as we look at the way this is all put together, we're going to find out that this is a pretty strong cleanse build. So the other question I have for you is, Caddy, when they're asking you to play this, are they asking you to play strictly as a cleanse bot, or?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, mostly as a cleanse bot. Okay, and that's normal. The thing that a lot of people don't recognize about Tempest is it does a few other things as well, and we'll take a look at it. Now, in terms of the weapons, what do they have you running?
Dagger, dagger, and dagger focus.
Dagger, dagger, and dagger focus. That's interesting. Me primarily, I'm going to be running Warhorn as my offhand on this. I'm going to be running Dagger Warhorn, and the reason why will become clear in a while. But I mean, this will kind of be up to you once you get there about what you're running. I wouldn't really run focus. Focus, it doesn't provide a lot to the team, if I'm not mistaken. Let's actually just unequip this and let's take a look at what focus has to offer us here. So in terms of focus, what is it giving us? It's giving us a fire aura, which is nice. So this is pretty helpful. It's giving us the days on the 5, which is not bad. It's giving us some knockdown, which is okay. And then let's take a look here. So, I mean, it's not bad, but I'll show you why I'm running Warhorn here in a little bit. Let us take another quick look at what the dagger would have to offer us. So we will unequip this, and we will equip a dagger, and let's take a look at what the dagger has to offer us. Again, Earthquake is really nice CC, some cripple and some bleed, which is not super significant. You get some nice CC off updraft, which is okay. Ride the Lightning, not something I would use a lot in World versus World Zerging. Let's go over here, and we're looking at a generation of Frost Aura, which is kind of nice. This is helpful for sure. But let's go over to fire. You got some burning, etc. So really the only value you're getting out of either of these is one aura. So I'll get into why I run Dagger here, why I run Dagger Warhorn here. If we go over to Warhorn, let's take a look. And the reason why I'm running Warhorn is specifically for Tidal Surge, which is a regen, a heal, and a knockback. And I'm running Watery Globe here, which is obviously a combo field, which I can then, take some nice things for it. Now, in terms of the secondary aura, which the other weapons were providing, and we'll go into why the auras are super important here in a few minutes. But what we do is we get the aura off the Warhorn 4, okay, off Earth, which is magnetic aura. Now, did they talk a lot about the auras to you, Catty, or is that something they went over with you?
Not so much yet. I know I was talking to somebody who generally plays Tempest this build all the time in our group, and they were telling me I mostly stay in water and use the auras a lot, like the 3 on the dagger.
Yeah, and we'll absolutely get into why that is. That is a very big part of it. The other part of it is that on water, I mean, the Warhorn, I think, is a superior tool. That is just me. So I'm going to leave this one to you here. And specifically, popping into Earth every once in a while and blasting Sand Squall is huge value. And we'll talk about why that might be in a little bit. Of course, let's keep in mind that we are in a PvE area, but we should probably go to a level 80 PvE area here. So you know what? Actually, we could probably just go into World versus World at this point as we're going in. So we got. Let's go to Red BL here for a little bit. And that way, when we're looking at numbers and everything, we'll be looking at something a little bit more relevant. And we'll get a better idea of what we're doing here with it. You have an equipped item that does not have stats. I'm guessing that's probably this, so we can actually take this off. We will unequip the second dagger. So, yeah, I'm going to favor the offhand Warhorn, personally. I'm just glad they didn't have you running staff. So
No, they told me to stay pretty much in the dagger. I don't think
I'm going to actually turn up your voice here a little bit. I gotcha. Okay, try that again.
They asked me to stay in dagger most of the time and not go into the focus too much.
Okay.
'Cause
Did they?
they want the dagger 5.
They weren't the Dagger 5. Let's go
Dagger
back.
5.
Dagger 5 underwater. So they're talking about the CC off that, I guess. Is that what that was again? Let's go back and
I
look.
don't. I think it's
Yeah.
the cleanse numbers off of that.
You don't get cleanse off of water Dagger 5. You do, however, get a really nice 5 target days off it. If we take a look at that.
Am I in dagger?
I don't know.
You're looking. Now I have to look.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I was.
It's important.
Yeah, no, this is the one. Here, let me bring it to you.
Okay, that cleansing wave is Warhorn, is it not? No. What is cleansing wave? Oh, that's the. Where is cleansing wave?
It might be a reworked skill.
A reworked skill that you have different than I do. This is my doubt phase. Let's go to Dag. Oh, okay, yeah, no, cleansing wave is there. Okay, so it's a 3 condi. It's a 3 condi removal. I mean, yeah, that's obviously got pretty big value. I will give you that.
Yeah, that's 3 condis for 5 people. That's
that's pretty significant. That's pretty significant. What I will say about this though is that the numbers you're going to be getting may kind of dwarf the value of that. But yeah, I mean, I see the value of this. I'm still gonna, me personally, I'm still gonna go with Warhorn, and I'll get into that later. But you know, again, I can see the value of that, and I would probably, you know, keep that in mind. And also, you're getting the Frost Aura off the 4, which is really nice as well. So yeah, not a awful choice, but the one I use is Warhorn there. In the weapons, what are you using for sigils at this point?
I have on the daggers is Sigil of Energy and a Sigil of Life.
A
and on the focus
sigil of
is
life?
A Sigil of Transference.
What is a sigil of life? That sounds very exotic. What do we got? Superior Sigil of Life. Gain a charge of 10 healing every time you kill a foe. Okay, well, I mean, in World versus World, that's actually pretty valuable. If you are running in a Zerg, that is a pretty decent little idea. By contrast, let me just set some stats on my dagger here. Okay. By contrast, am using transference and concentration. The reason I'm using concentration is that, again, I've kind of banged this hammer a little bit over the years. I think that regen is an underappreciated boon, and with all the healing power you're going to have, it actually becomes pretty relevant. So
we might be getting regen from someone else in the party.
Okay. Well, that's valid. That's valid as well. And if that's being all covered, then yeah, the dagger becomes a bit of a better choice if you're getting that. What are you running as a secondary support in your comp?
Druid.
Okay, you're running that crazy druid build that we've been messing around with, which is very cool, but a little harder to play than this is, I think. So we'll go with that. Okay, so let us go back and let us take a look at the build and let us inspect the build, and then I will at the same time pop my build that I run here, and let's take a look. So your build and my build are 1 trait different, 2 traits different, 1 trait different. So the trait that you are running here, you see, I'm running the wrong one here, I believe. So you might be better. Blindness on foes you burn. Oh, see, yeah, I'm using this for the might generation and spreading out the might via the Warhorn. Does your comp struggle for might?
No.
Okay. So yeah, then you're probably better off just taking Blinding Ashes. Yeah, that's not anything I would argue about there. Otherwise, yeah, this is identical to what I have been running in World versus World. The only thing that I'm going to pop your eyes on about the traits here is I'm going to have you take a quick look at Lucid Singularity, which is the Tempest Grandmaster. And the reason I would situationally change this is you can be the Alacrity engine during Siege and then go back to, Elemental Bastion.
We're getting Alacrity from the Mesmers.
You're getting Alacrity from Mesmers.
Yeah, we got the Mesmers between the Mesmers and then the Rebs help out.
Wow, 2019 called. They want their comp back. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So yeah, the only time I'm going to switch this Grandmaster is for those of the crowd watching us right now. The one reason I would change this would be for if in situations where you are planting siege a lot and your siege isn't getting Alacrity, because I think that maintaining Alacrity in the middle of a Zerg is not always great, and especially if you're pugging like I do the majority of my World versus World Zerging, you don't see that boon. And Alacrity, obviously, on any kind of siege scenario, can be the difference between getting in there and getting the cap, and then getting in there and getting rolled by 50 more people. So I will point that out to the crowd then. If you, however, are already getting Alacrity, as Catty mentioned, then yeah, Elemental Bastion is absolutely what you want to take here. It is a massive, massive benefit. And as I was in action, I wouldn't want to be running any other trait here. The only other thing that I used to put in here is there were times I used to run Galesong occasionally, but they nerfed the living hell out of Galesong last week. They just made it a crap trait, to be honest with you. I mean, protection is not awful, but So, the big real benefit of this one then becomes proccing auras. Let me take a look at one more thing, because I think I've got a difference on my bar than you do. So let's pull that up. So there is one difference on our bar in that you are using Eye of the Storm, where I am using Signet of Water. Neither of these are going to proc an aura, so changing these is really beneficial. But particularly, I find in Zerg play, Signet of Water revives foes in the area that you dump it down, so that can be pretty big value. It's an AoE res, and I'm a big believer in it. Other than that, the passive is kind of nice sustain for you. Not that you really need it in the Minstrel's gear with the Trooper runes, but it's pretty big value. But yeah, I will run Signet of Water instead of the Eye of the Storm. That said, if your comp is running into problems with stability, or mitigating any kind of CCs, then yeah, Eye of the Storm is probably the right play there. I can't really think of anything else. Putting another aura in here sounds great, but the reality is the only other aura you're going to get here is Fire Aura, and we'll talk about the auras in a little bit. Fire Aura, probably the worst of the auras. It's a little bit better offensively, but it really just doesn't provide the value that the Frost Aura and Magnetic Aura are actually going to provide you. So really, that is kind of where I will roll on this, but that's really not a big difference. Eye of the Storm is a really, really powerful skill, which is why I used to love Galesong, which would proc Eye of the Storm. It would proc Eye of the Storm before. I know, I'm really salty about that nerf. Okay, onwards. Sorry. This is like you and the cannon in Red Keep, right? It's pretty bad. Okay, so the only other option that I would offer you in here, and it is one that I have taken, is a selfish option, and that is taking Mist Form. Mist Form is often the difference between getting smoked and getting through that door. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll find yourself in a lot of situations in World versus World where you'll be getting chased and it's like that close to getting through a door. And really, Mist Form can really help in that scenario, but it is a much higher. Nilak Vinar. Thanks for this one. Will you upload a video like the World versus World Scrapper? I'm not sure at this point. I think there's a lot more videos I need to be working on, to be clear with you. It's been like 2 months since I put a video up.
The list is long.
The list is massive at this point. But getting back to what I was talking about, yeah, Mist Form makes you completely invulnerable. It's every bit as useful as having that downstate skill on Ellie, which in World versus World is actually pretty impactful. Getting downed and then being able to move somewhere like through a door or into a friendly area can be really good. I'll use this mainly when I'm roaming Mist Form, but again, if I'm pugging, this might be a good choice for me just to mitigate the lack of play. JJ Ice, hello. Hello. Caddy could be a little louder. I will absolutely get that. That's not a problem. I got this. This is just a settings problem. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. So that is kind of the build here. We're not running anything drastically different. I will make the solid case for Signet of Water, particularly if your people are dying. But again, it's kind of one of those situations where you're not giving up too much by going in the other direction on that. The next thing that I guess we can take a look at is indeed the gameplay on this. Now, for those of you guys who, I didn't go over the build really heavily here, but let's look at the really important parts of the build here. First is smothering auras. Fire auras have increased duration. Applying auras to allies removes conditions. So basically every time that you are proccing an aura, you will be removing conditions on people. This is really big. And then when you transmute an aura, you will absolutely remove conditions from allies. Yeah.
What does that mean when you transmute an aura? Because I hear them talk about it, but I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, let's, for the sake of argument, let's go over into Air and Dagger 3. Now, Dagger 3 procs a shocking aura, right? Once you proc that aura, you've got a transmute button. It becomes a different skill for a few seconds. And what that skill is the transmutation of the aura. In 15 seconds, we will... Oh, there you go. See, now I can transmute it as well when you've put it on me. The transmuting of the aura, and in 5 seconds, I'll go over this really quickly so that we can see the tooltip as best we can. So let's put down the shocking aura, and then it becomes cause your shocking aura to explode violently, stunning enemies who are struck. So this is massive CC is what this is, and we can technically do this with a lot of different auras, but the only one you're really going to find yourself reliably transmuting is most likely the Overload Air. And I guess in here, does this under Dagger... the Frost Aura, which we can transmute as well under the Dagger. That is actually where you're going to get a lot of your cleanse value. You're going to get more cleanse value off that transmuting than you probably expect. The real benefit is when we go back into Air here, that Air aura, that shocking aura is massive, massive value. So when we talk about auras and what they do, there are 4 different auras in the game, or there are technically 5, but Tempest is only going to give you 4 of them, and only 3 of them have real value. So we'll go over those really quickly. The first one is Shocking Aura, and Shocking Aura is stun nearby attacking foes with an electric shock. So when I'm playing this, what I like to do is pop this when we are rolling into the engage. And what that means is the 5 people around me who are getting the aura, and they're getting any aura because I'm using powerful aura here underwater. So what they are doing is they're getting that aura because I have that trait equipped. Bam, they've got this, and that means that the next attack they take, via melee or ranged, will actually stun the attacker. That is pretty crazy value. Now, if the people coming in on you have stab, obviously that's going to rip the stab. But really, that is your big value on that one. And then again, when you transmute, okay, you're only going to explode your aura. You're not going to explode it on other people. So they'll maintain that aura, and then you will again put that stun down on everybody or on 5 targets around you. I think it's a 5 target. Let's make sure here in a couple of seconds. But
yeah, it's 5 targets.
Yeah, it's pretty big value. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about transmuting. Basically, any skill that generates an aura will have the ability to do that. Now, when we talk about Earth, and really they're telling you to campfire, I'm going to show you some of the value on the Earth, and I'm going to show it to you for a reason here. Because magnetic aura is what you will proc here on Earth, or on your Earth skills, or also on Aftershock. And magnetic aura, when we proc it, we see reflect projectiles with magnetic energy. This again is something particularly on an engage or situations where rangers are trolling you on their Sick'em Soul Beasts. Popping that magnetic aura is huge value. And the good thing is, once we are in Earth, we have the ability to proc this in 3 different ways, right? So we have Aftershock. Okay. And we have Sand Squall. Okay, and then we also have the Overload Earth, which when it finishes will proc us magnetic aura. It's important to recognize that another thing that procs auras is the overloads, but it only procs those after the overload is completed. So it's a little bit of a pain that way, and that's where we start getting into the skill cap of it. We start talking about, what is easy. Well, easy is just camping water. And, I'm not going to tell you not to just camp water. The other aura that we will be giving a lot of is Frost Aura. And if we take a look at that, chill foes that strike you. And it's a 10% damage reduction, which I'm sure you see the value of. So that really is kind of the basics. What you're going to do is proc those auras at all times, because they will cleanse people. Transmuting them will cleanse more people. The shouts, all of these shouts will do cleanses, and that's really the only reason we're running Rebound, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, Caddy's fashion is killer. Absolutely. We'll do a fashion break in a moment. There we go. So the thing to the thing to keep in mind here while we're doing this is that we will be cleansing off all of these shouts, and that's really the only reason we kind of want to run Rebound, other than the fact that we're also going to proc an aura depending on our attunement at that point. So if I'm in Earth and I hit Rebound, bam, well, that didn't proc magnetic aura there. Why didn't it do it? What happened? What happened there? Do I not have this set up correctly? Huh. Think we have a bug. Let's try this again. Oh, I don't have that up for another 60 seconds. We'll worry about it later. At any rate, what should happen is when you proc Rebound, you should be getting an aura off that as well. It's kind of strange that didn't happen there. It's not procking. Isn't that weird? Probably something we should bug at some point, because... Wait a second, it's only saying fire aura. It's only... Okay. I'm not sure that's how it's supposed to be. Anyways, the other thing that this does is ignore the next lethal blow and receive healing. It's not huge value that way. The the cooldown on this is pretty massive, so it really doesn't provide the biggest value off that one. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's try this under fire and see if this procs here, because it says it should proc here. And why it's only proccing fire aura is... No, it's not even proccing the fire aura correctly. Oh, there it is. Okay, well, it's proccing fire aura anyway. That's interesting. I'm not sure that's intended or not. Probably have to do a little bit more research on that. At any rate, so there we have it. When I come into an engage, the first thing that I am going to do is I am going to proc that shocking aura, and then you have to keep a time on that because it doesn't last very long. So you want to make sure that you're proccing that the moment you go in, and then just about right afterwards transmuting it, then popping into Overload Air, which procs the aura, and then transmuting that again. So not only is that massive CC, that's massive mitigation for your team, because what you've done there is proc shocking aura twice, and that is going to absorb a few hits. So while yes, you know, hanging out here in water is not bad, it really behooves you to kind of learn at least the air and the earth attunement parts of it as well, which, while I understand can be a little bit much, it's not even close to what you were having to do with Scrapper.
It reminded me a lot of Scrapper, going in and out of the different elements up there.
Absolutely.
Between air, water.
Yeah, and you will get that. Just going to break in, Derek Munter. Thank you very much for the subscription. Yeah, I actually think Scrapper is a lot more finicky to play than this is, because one of the things to understand about Tempest and what makes it so great is everything is area based. The downside of that is you don't have access to your own stability via the what is it that gives you the stab? The little globe that goes around you there. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, what, the dome on Scrapper?
Yeah, the dome. The dome.
It doesn't even move anymore. But
What?
It's stab, but it doesn't move with you anymore. Now you place the dome someplace, but you can take your stab with you.
Oh my god! Of all the boneheaded solutions. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me started on the Scrapper nerfs. Really, let's just not get mine started on the Scrapper nerfs.
That's how I ended up on Druid.
It is how you ended up on Druid, and it's why everybody's kind of experimenting right now, and why they will be back on Scrapper next week. So yeah, that's just weird to me. Anyways, let us move on here at this point. I find it easier to play than Scrapper because a lot of Scrapper's value depends on your placement. Your placement here on Tempest is just be in the middle of everybody at all times is kind of the thing in order to get the value, because the overloads are AoEs around you. All right. All the shouts are AoEs around you. And that makes things simpler in that you don't have to think about things like the elixir gun being behind people and everything. And you don't have to do any fancy combo popping, which is another thing that kind of raises the skill cap on Scrapper. And what's funny is that the cleansing on Tempest, without really getting into the skill kind of cap on it, just playing it as basic as possible is much easier than Scrapper. But when we talk about the attunement swapping, that's where we get into the actual skill area of it. So getting back to what we were talking about, when I'm going into an engage, the first thing I want to do is be in that air attunement, actually. If you are if you're running Eye of the Storm, you want to have Eye of the Storm ready because that's going to be, the big mitigation for any comp that isn't running Firebrand. Have you guys gone back to Firebrand yet?
Yeah, we're going Selly Firebrand.
Selly Firebrand. That makes more sense than a lot of things. I'm running Firebrand and Minstrels, but I think Selly is actually probably bigger value these days. So that is kind of where we would have it. We would run in on the engage. I actually on the engage will actually run in with the lightning overload, but timing that becomes the real problem. If you understand what I mean, it's like you need to know when the aura is going to proc. You have to have a very good idea about timing the overload just as you enter combat, right? Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So that really is kind of the thing. I mean, you can get away without doing this, but if you are really going in and wanting to provide value, making sure that you are kind of timing that as you go in can be really, really huge. Because once I've gone in there with that overload, and we'll wait until this kind of procs here again. So the good news is once we're in here, we can actually transmute that aura. So what I'm going to do is go into the overload. Once that procs the aura, I will transmute that lightning. But since I haven't used the cooldown on this, I can proc Shocking Aura again, and I can transmute it again. So not only have I given all the cleanse value off those two auras, I've given a ton of CC. Do you get what I'm talking about with that?
I know what you're talking about.
All right, you want to try it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I forgot what to do now.
That's where you start. Yep.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
Forgot.
And then transmute it.
Oh, I hit my button too fast.
That's not a problem. You'll get the hang of it. Again, yeah, you could camp water. I mean, you could absolutely camp water.
You know I'm not going to camp water.
No, I know you're not because you got some skills to furiously click. So
I can. I click my skills like nobody else.
So I'm going to, again, run that. When the aura procs, I'm going to transmute it. Then I'm going to go right back into Shocking Aura, and I'm going to transmute it again. So that is what we call big value, particularly on an engage. After that, I'm actually going to go into Earth, blow my Warhorn 4, and give everybody Magnetic Aura.
I don't have a Warhorn.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. You should have one.
No, but I have a really cool focus. So I'm kind of happy about the focus stuff.
So really what you're saying is you should run focus because Catty has the legendary focus. Yeah, okay. I'm going to run the Warhorn because I like the functionality of it. But again, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, if we're running the dagger offhand as you have been told to do, which is not wrong, you're not going to run into this problem. But the reality is, if I'm pumping up a couple of magnetic auras, then I've mitigated a bunch of ranged damage. And there's obviously even a lot of close combat counts as range damage. So mitigating that, I find, is pretty big value. Then I'm going to pop over into into water. And with the water, I'm going to hit Tidal Surge. I'm going to hit that Water Globe. And then I'm going to pop into the Overload here. And situationally, I'm going to use the other two shouts. So when I talk about the other two shouts, I'm talking about Flash Freeze and I'm talking about Aftershock. What I think is important to know about these, though, to be honest, is that we're not proccing them for really what they do. We're proccing them for the aura. So again, it's, they used to call these builds Aura Mancer builds. So I think it's kind of important to keep that in mind. So do you get what I'm kind of talking about with all that?
Yeah, I know what
Okay.
you're talking.
You hear what
I'm following you.
you smell what the Rock is cooking. All right. Professional wrestling reference number one of today. There will be Chris Jericho jokes later. I gotta tune my mic down 2 seconds. So that really, when you're looking at playing it at a slightly higher level, I think it's really important to at least be cognizant of the shocking aura. I think that the shocking aura, particularly the shocking aura, becomes really big value when you're talking about that 10 to 15 man game. You know the difference between the 10 to 15 and the 20 to 25 man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a big difference.
Right, and the 20 to 25 man, this becomes, it becomes such a spam contest that this loses some of its value, and it's really a better value, but it's still good. It's still good. In the really big spammy fights, yeah, the reason why I'm going to be running Warhorn in the big spammy fights is absolutely for the healing benefit, because obviously, in addition to everything else, this build heals really strongly. Now, it's not healing as strongly as it could. What is also important to realize is you've got this thing here called Soothing Mist. Now, Soothing Mist is what comes under water just for taking water, and it just heals people around you, which is big value. You could absolutely, if you are, not playing with the auras, run Soothing Mist, and a lot of people will tell you that Soothing Mist is the better choice. But that's the better choice if you're camping water. And you're not really generating any auras. But if you're not generating any auras, you don't want to be using fire. Because the only reason we're really taking fire on this build is for the transmuting, removing conditions, and for the applying auras, adding conditions. So do we have questions at this point?
I have no question.
Okay. You are using, that is the orchid pants? Is that right?
Oh, are we gonna guess what I'm wearing?
Am I right?
The pants
Yeah.
are not the orchid pants.
So they're the tier 1 cultural?
They are the Snapdragon leggings.
Yes, so they are the tier 1 cultural. Also the tier 1 cultural top, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh, that is the Nightmare Court Rose.
Ooh, the Nightmare Court Robes. Look at me getting owned on the fashion.
I got you on the Silvari fashion.
You did get me on the Silvari fashion. So that Nightmare Court Robes absolutely gained in the Twilight Arbor dungeon. I guess any dungeons now. I guess the way things work in terms of dungeon progression is we can run any dungeon and get whatever gear we want. So yeah, that's gained in dungeons. Those wings, and you know how I feel about wings. Those are Gemstore wings, butterfly wings. And those are the boots. Again, probably I'm going to say those are the Orchid or Snapdragon.
Yes, they are the orchid boots.
Okay. I, by sharp example or sharp contrast, am running. Let's take a look here. I guess I should not be looking at your build for this. Let's pull this up. So I'm running.
The pineapple hair.
The pineapple hair is big value. I quite like that. Basically, the idea. Furiat, thank you very much for the follow / subscription. I really appreciate that. With the hat, the whole idea was about this character when I made her was I wanted to make her look like a cactus flower. So that's kind of why I came up with the idea of the character. Because I've said this before, I define my Silvari by the plants that they come from. So when I make a Silvari, I get reference images of certain plants. And the idea behind this character was to be this kind of healing spring in the desert kind of idea. So I got pictures of cactus flowers and went with it. And that's how the pineapple hair came out of it. Using the Requiem Coronet, which is gained in the Jahai Bluffs. For those of you guys who likes to PvE, I'm using the Phoenix Mantle because I very much like the symmetry. That is gem store gear. Phoenix Vest, also gem store gear. Phoenix Gloves, also. Oh, look, I'm a gem store Andy. Okay. Bounty Hunter Pants. The Bounty Hunter Pants looked really, really good on this one. Bounty Hunter gear is gained in the desert maps. There's a bit of a collection behind those, or you just do what we did and you play World versus World a lot and you get all the desert armor collections that way. And I'm using the Phoenix shoes because, again, gem store Andy. Let's see your weapons.
My weapons?
Yeah, your weapons. You're using a... Wow, you are rocking that Pearl Carver. Well played.
Oh, yeah,
right.
I didn't even change them yet.
Oh, wow. Pearl weapons.
But on the other side,
yeah,
I got my legendary.
Yeah, you do. Okay, well, we'll give it up for that. I am running the Bright Inquisitor dagger, which is gem store Andy. I'm full effect. And I'm using the bug weapon. So you get this this bug warhorn in dry top, which, you know, good job. You also notice I'm not running Minstrel's gear on my warhorn. This goes back to when I used to be, I guess, in Harrier's gear, all Harrier's gear for PvE. But I actually went through and changed that. No problem, mate. Just all my builds are out of meta. You know what? Meta is not why people come to my channel. Oh, Lord. Yeah, but can you run it in Celestial? I don't know.
Of course you can.
Of course, you can run anything in Celestial. Could you run this in Celestial? Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
You could run it in Celestial, but you wouldn't get a lot of it. You'd be missing a lot of the healing value in Celestial.
Might be running back from spawn a bit.
Yeah, but you do more damage. You do a ton more damage. There you go. The only other thing, just to put a cap on this one, short little bit here, is that I will say playing this in PvE, not a whole lot different than playing it in World versus World. If you were going to go ahead and play it in PvE, you would make some changes. You would probably run Soothing Mist here. You would probably run Lucid Singularity in order to upkeep the alacrity on your group would be another wise choice. And you definitely would not be running the Fire trait line here because Condi Clear in PvE, not nearly the same kind of value. So when I run this in PvE, I'm actually running Earth. I'm running this fairly differently in PvE. And I'm not running these Trooper runes in PvE. For a PvE setup, I am running Monk runes, which is kind of, I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer. It may be a bit of a brainer. But I'm running the Monk runes in PvE. There are a lot of other options on this. Even the Dwayne runes aren't bad in PvE, which are significantly cheaper. And I'm probably not running this in full minstrels because this actually, if I'm indeed in a situation where toughness tanking is an issue, then I have way more toughness than I really want to be bringing to the party. I'm probably going to want to run this in Harrier's gear for PvE. Which is what I ran. But the other side is if I'm not worried about toughness tanking, i.e. I am not running it in raids, I run it in the Minstrel's gear to run fractals and stuff like that. Obviously, we're not super serious about fractals. We generally don't play them over tier 2 or tier 3. The other part of my fashion, oh yeah, my hammer, which works just so well with that for when I play Catalyst. But yeah, when I'm running this in PvE, I will probably run this in Harrier's gear. Not that it does a significant amount of damage, just that the toughness and the vitality don't have the same kind of benefit in instant PvE. I'm not going to run this in open world. In open world, it just doesn't have the same value that, say, a Celestial Tempest would have. Selly Tempest. Why you laugh at my Sully Tempest?
Sully Tempest.
Why you laugh at my Sully Tempest?
It's like Marshall Tallesmith, isn't it?
Wow. Wow. I'm gonna come and play my Valkyrie's Deadeye or something. I don't know. moly.
I dare you.
You do? Yeah, right.
I'll bring support.
You'll bring support. You'll bring your druid. All right. I think that's about it, Caddy. I think we have had our conversation here, and we have learned a lot about Tempest. I will wait a couple of minutes if anybody else has any quick questions here. We were just kind of dropping in for this and this reason only here today. If you take nothing else from this, take the value of popping into air, and work out that little rotation where we start with the overload, make sure that we are in combat by the time that procs, transmute it, and then I'm on the wrong set of equipment. Okay, let's go back here. So we'll try that again. Put the right build back on. So we will wait for the overload to proc. We will transmute it. Then we'll dagger 3 again. We'll transmute again. We'll pop into Earth. We will generate a whole bunch of, if we're running Warhorn, we'll generate some magnetic aura. We'll generate magnetic aura again. And this goes to my general philosophy about the game that, you know, mitigating those hits before they happen is better than healing after they happen. But it's still pretty big value. Pretty big value. On the shouts, again, keeping in mind that magnetic aura, your number one tool for dealing with sniping longbow rangers, meme soul beast builds, and keeping in mind that the auras are constantly healing everybody. You're pulsing a lot of heal on this build without having to invest very heavily in it. Obviously, we're investing in it with the gear, not so much with the runes, not so much. I mean, I'm using a transference sigil here, I believe, which is upping my healing a fair bit. The only other thing to keep in mind in terms of this is if you want better value from your runes, this is kind of a tough call. If you're not running into condi pressure here with your group, if your group is not struggling with the condis and you can get away without using these trooper runes, there is a rune set that will increase the duration of your auras, I believe, the Runes of Radiance, which is a really nice bump in vitality. It's giving us a bunch of boon duration. By a bunch, I mean we're getting, 25% extra boon duration off these. And you're increasing the duration of your auras. That said, however, these are pretty good. Lundbald wants to know, can you tell a good PvE build for Revenant that can solo things? I don't know. Caddy, do you think I got a good Rev build?
I think you do.
Okay. You know what? We will take a moment and do that. I will just cap this conversation before I go pop over and look at some Revenant stuff real quick by just saying that these Radiance runes, you know, if you're not struggling with condi pressure, these Radiance runes are pretty massive value. That said, they are also, if I'm not mistaken, prohibitively expensive. Let's just take a look at these. Radiance. Oh, so they're actually, I guess, soul or account bound. So there you have it. Once you know the recipe, you have to actually craft them. Can't just even buy them. So there you go. Yeah, hey, not a problem, Epsi, not a problem. Go and take a look into a quick little bit of Revenant before I put a cap on this stream here today. I have a couple of different Rev builds that I run. These days, my number one will always be Condi Shortbow Renegade, and we'll take a look at Condi Shortbow Renegade right here, which I'm not sure I have set up correctly, to be honest with you guys. So we'll take a look at this. Pulling it up here. Yeah, no, I'm running Viper's gear on this. So I'm running Viper's gear with Torment runes. These Torment runes, debatable as to the value that they are providing. They used to be drastically overpowered. Now they are not as overpowered. But with this build, if you're just getting started with it, I would suggest going in Celestial gear instead of the Viper's gear. The Viper's gear is a much higher damage solution on this, so keep that in mind. The other option that I do kind of run on... Oh, no, I don't have another option on that right now. Okay, so I'm going to run this in Vipers or in Celestial. Let's take a look at the traits really quickly. And the traits that I'm running here should be absolutely no shock to anyone. And that is that we are running Diabolic Inferno. This is not the right build. Give me a moment. Is this the right build? Oh, yeah. This is the one called Amaze Balls. Yeah, okay, so this is the right build. So we're going to run Devastation, we're going to run Corruption, we're going to run Renegade. If anybody out there is running Condi Rev, you've seen this before. Unsuspecting Strikes, Swift Termination, and Thrill of Combat. If you are struggling for Sustain while you're trying to solo things, moving Unsuspecting Strikes down to Battle Scarred and running Swift Termination down to Dance of Death is the play. Ideally, you're going to be running Corruption, Torment dealing increased damage with Acolyte of Torment, Pact of Pain conditions you apply to foes last longer, but conditions also apply to you last longer. This doesn't suck in PvE because the number of conditions in PvE, particularly damaging ones, is not very high. You'll run into some burning, but it's not awful. And Diabolic Inferno, which is a straight up DPS increase. Over on Renegade, we're running it straight down the middle. Fury increases durations of bleeds you inflict. Heart Piercer, which is piercing short bow and bleeding damage increase, and Lasting Legacy. Though going down here and running Righteous Rebel is not a bad choice. If you are in the Celestial gear, you absolutely want to be running Righteous Rebel because you're going to get some pretty big value off the Alacrity. And basically, you're just going to spam that F4 that way. But when you're running Lasting Legacy, spamming the F2 is kind of where I pull that. So, Heroic Command. So really, this is just an instant might generator every once in a while, which is really handy if you are doing a lot of damage. So if you're running it in Celestial gear, run Righteous Rebel. If you're not running it in Celestial gear, run Lasting Legacy. The other option on this is to run it in Trailblazers gear. And the Trailblazers gear is about a 15% reduction in your DPS, but is, 15% is not a huge nerf to your DPS. It's a massive survivability increase. The only other Rev build I am playing in PvE right now, I will jump over onto this, is I am running a bit of a meme build here, and this is a power Revenant build. And the reason I'm running this, it will become clear in a moment. I like this build for the quick kill. I am running this in, this is not the right build. Give me a moment here. So this is my power Renegade build. And the reason we can run a power Renegade build becomes clear right here. We're running this in not Valkyrie's gear. I'm running this is the wrong gear here. Let's take another look. Yeah, so we're running this in Valkyrie's gear. Valkyrie's gear being power, vitality, and ferocity. The reason we're doing this is because we can crit cap without any precision due to a trait here, which is, just looking at, well, at full endurance, increase your chance to critically strike. It's a huge bump in your critical chance. So you can actually run this Valkyrie's gear, which is giving us a whole bunch of vitality without really nerfing our damage. So I'll run sword, and short bow on that. The short bow is not the greatest damage. All your damage is going to come from sword. But this is pretty easy to play. And if you're just looking for something to tool around in open world with, if you're not big game hunting, I highly recommend we take a look at this. So we'll go back over in here. We're running Devastation. Again, you know, your sustain options are down here. Okay, your damage options are Swift Termination and Unsuspecting Strikes. Then we're running Invocation. We're running Rising Tide, which is strike damage when your health is high. You're running Incensed Response, which is gain might when you grant yourself Fury. And you're running Rolling Mists, which is critical hit chances further increased while you're under the effect of Fury. Again, this is how we are getting to the crit cap without running any precision in our gear. So that's kind of the idea there. So those are the two builds I'm running in terms of Revenant for open world these days. I'm kind of tooling around with a new Vindicator build. The other thing to take a look at is I have a pretty decent Vindicator build already up on the channel. If you want to take a look at that, there's a Power Vindicator build that I put out just after End of Dragons. So there we go. I'm going to cap it there, my friends. Just wanted to jump in and talk with Catty, maybe put something up there that might be a little bit of value to people. I am going to remind you all to have fun in game and min-max your real life. And we will see you guys on Saturday.